Okay, we had some technical difficulties, but we're still back. And right now I can't see the slide in front of me, but we have what I was trying to talk about earlier was that I've been a part of a lot of different projects that involve molecular biology, where we try to manipulate a gene to produce a different protein that'll help give, say, tolerance to a specific herbicide so that you can use it in a specific crop. And I think that one of the things you find that when you mutate genes or if you force to mutate a gene and try to do things differently with a gene, you'll find that a lot of those specific proteins, when they're made, are actually not at all viable. So sometimes you realize that each time you try to make a new iteration of a protein, that you create problems with that protein so that it doesn't actually function in the plant or in other cases in an animal anymore properly, so it doesn't do the function it was set out to do. So knowing those types of things makes it even more difficult to try to understand how a protein could be formed by accident, because there's many, many examples of how you can form a protein that doesn't function at all. So that's one of the things where I try to give you those real life examples. The proteins have to be specifically within close range of what they are actually made of to try to be viable for the plant to actually function or that animal to actually function. And we look on the next slide. And I guess the reason why this topic is so important to me, because I am a Christian and I'm also a scientist. And a lot of times people don't realize, but those two aren't mutually exclusive. I know some of the best men of faith that I know and women of faith that I know are scientists. And so it's very much, to me, a lot of us look at it in a lot of ways as when we do scientific research, we're trying to uncover the majesty of what God has created and trying to understand how it was done. We don't know a lot of the how. We know what's happening and sometimes why it's happening, but how it happened, a lot of that is still unclear, and a lot of those reasons is why it's very interesting to me. But being both a Christian and a scientist, I sometimes see the issues from both sides of the fence, because I recognize that sometimes as a Christian you express things towards scientists for a lot of the conclusions that they draw and a lot of the research. A lot of times we express those things as being a negative. And then a lot of times as a scientist, some scientists look at Christians and their faith as being false or unreasonable. And I think that both of those situations, I kind of cringe whenever I hear both sides of that, because I see both sides of what the issues are associated with how Christians view scientists and how scientists view Christians. And the main reason this topic is more important to me is as I've done more evangelism and doing more outreach to other people, it's come painfully clear to me that a lot of people believe that science has answered all the issues associated with creation. They've answered all the issues associated with the glory and majesty of the nature and science that we see around us every day, and that they believe that has proven that there is no creator and that there is no God. And so I get concerned when I hear that when I talk to people, because I think a lot of people are making assumptions based on information that doesn't give them a clear picture of what is really the reality there. So we'll go to the next slide. We talk about what science is and what science isn't. And as I look at what science is, science is basically taking an idea, trying to look at an idea and trying to understand what is the issue at hand, and trying to understand how do I get better understanding of what that issue is at hand, and how do I derive information from research trials, and how do I take that information and extrapolate make some sort of theories or assumptions based on that research to help drive additional research. And a lot of what a scientist does is they actually go back and look at the old literature. They try to understand what the predecessors have done in trying to understand the topic. And then they propose new research that actually has to fit in the specific materials and methods that are approved by the industry or which they are a part of. And they use that to study that further and to help try to generate data that either proves or disproves a theory that they have put out. And so once they take that information, then they're using that information to drive better decisions in regards to how we look upon the topic, and try to make sure that we use some of that information to help drive it toward a better solutions for the people that are actually having that problem. And as we look here, the key is trying to understand too what science is not. Because science is not always certain or definitive. We don't always, whenever we hear the word theory, I think a lot of people consider that as fact. And a lot of times those theories have not been especially proven or actually repeatable by other scientists to confirm the same conclusions. So science is not always definitive. And as we look at it, science is also, just for a second.